Welcome. Our next unit is on percent, and we are going to focus on how it's related to fractions and decimals, which we've studied already this year. And this is very relevant to your everyday life because people use the word percent, and we're going to guarantee now that we know what it means. A little bit of focus on the word percent. It has this word cent in it, and we've talked about there are 100 years in a century, and there are 100 cents in a dollar. In French and Spanish, the roots for the word 100 are cent, C-E-N, I believe. Maybe it's different in Spanish. But I want you to also notice that the symbol for percent, when I write the word 100, I have a 1 and 2 zeros. I can turn my 1 on its side and put the zeros above and below. So percent is also made of a slash and 2 O's, zeros. Percent is another way of writing as a part of a whole, so it's a fraction. We have a picture here of flowers, and it says there are 100 tulips in this picture, so we don't even have to actually count them, and 75 of them are red. So you would say 75 out of 100 are red, and there are 3 different ways to write that. The 75 out of 100 nicely translates to the fraction 75 over 100, and to convert that to a decimal, we just move the decimal point over 2 because it's dividing by 100. And then the coolest thing for percent is if we have a fraction that has over 100, we can take the over 100 and replace it with the percent symbol. So these are 3 equivalent ways of writing the same value. I'd like you to pause the video here and answer this first guided question. Now, again, if you look at this picture, you can count that there are 100 equal parts in this big square, and 25 of them are shaded. So the fraction that are shaded is 25 out of 100. This is the nicest fraction to have to write it as a percent because the over 100 can be replaced with 25 out of 100. I also like you to notice that the shaded part is 25%, so the difference between 25 and 100 would be the unshaded part, so 75% of this big square is unshaded. Again, I'd like you to pause this video and answer the guided questions 2 through 6. And again, we are going to pause this and answer the questions 7 through 12. Make sure you note on 11 and 12, when your original fraction does not have 100 in the denominator, you're going to use your equivalent fraction knowledge and make it so it has 100 in the denominator, because then it's simpler to convert it to a percentage. Now, if you have a decimal, we would then want to know maybe how to convert it to a fraction or to a percent. So decimals pretty easily convert to a fraction over 100 if you look at the decimal out to the hundredth place value. In this first example, we see that it's a 0.03, so that would be 3 out of 100 are shaded. And then we can write that out as 0.03 or 300ths, which then converts to 3%. 0.45 pretty quickly translates to 45 out of 100. It's a little bit more complicated when you have 0.7 because there's nothing in the hundredths place. So make sure you fill that into the hundredths place, and then the equivalent fraction is 70 out of 100, which is 70%. And please take note of the number line at the bottom, because again, this number line goes from 0% to 100%, which is from 0 to the decimal 1. And all along, they have the decimals on the bottom, which 0.5, which is halfway to a whole, would be 50%. And just see how the corresponding decimals and fractions line up. again, I would like you to pause here and do these guided practice questions. Again, on 15 and 16, make sure that you focus on the fact that originally, as the decimal is written originally, it is not out to the 100th spot, so you need to continue and make an equivalent fraction. Now, if I have a percent and I want to convert it to a fraction, all I have to do is I take my percentage, I remove the percent symbol and write the number over 100. In this first example, we have 8%, which is 8 out of 100. But then if they want it as a fraction, most people prefer that you take it all the way to the final form, and that is simplify it. And you would see that 8 and 100 are both divisible by 4, so you end up with 2/25. In reverse, if someone gave you the fraction 2/25 and asked you to write it as a percent, it would be a lot more work because I would first have to convert that to a fraction that has 100 in the denominator. So you would undo what you've done. You would multiply the 2 over 25 by 4 over 4, and then you would get 8 out of 100, and you would get 100%. This example over here is the same idea. You have 65%, so that's 65 out of 100, but then those numbers are both divisible by 5, so your final answer for the fraction equivalent to 65% is 13/20. If you become more familiar with the fact that what number is 100ths divisible by, it will make your life much simpler for simplifying fractions. Again, we're going to pause the video and answer these guided practice questions, and make sure that you notice in the directions that it says in simplest form. So you have to simplify your fractions so that there is no common factor, except for 1, in the numerator and denominator. This is the last section of this video. We are going to talk about expressing percents as decimals. So 48% we know is the same as saying 48 out of 100. It's also the same as saying 48 divided by 100. We have spent this last unit, the previous unit, working with dividing by 100. So you move the decimal over 2 places, and you get 0.48. Again, 79% is 79 over 100 out of 100. That is the same as saying 79 divided by 100. We do not want to do long division. We move the decimal 2 places and we get 0.79. So again, hopefully you're seeing that things we've learned earlier this year come in repeatedly as we move into percents. Again, you're going to pause here and answer there's these 4 questions, and then there's going to be one more page. This last page, I would really like you to take the time to copy down the number line and focus on the fact of where everything is and filling in the appropriate fraction, decimal, and percent equivalents. I'm going to look at one example with you before you start. I have 52%, so that's going to be more than 50%, less than 60%. It's going to 52%, we can write it as 52 over 100. However, I cannot stop there. I have to keep going. I have to simplify my fraction. These are both divisible by 4, so I end up with 13/25. And then it's nice to write this fraction 52 out of 100 first, because that then is easy to convert to a decimal, so it's 0.52. So I hope this has followed for you nicely and that you can fill in all of the appropriate information. Have a good day.